Hi there, my name is Dr. Katie Saint, and in this video, we have someone who was brave enough to share her story on what it was like growing up with a sibling with severe autism. And so, in her story, she shares vulnerability and honesty on what her experiences were like. I asked her to make a list of pointers or recommendations that she would advise based on her experiences. So she came up with 10 points that we could consider applying to ourselves or our families. Some points that I thought were super important that she brought up are that it's okay to set boundaries and it's okay to not feel guilty about setting boundaries, and also that the mental health of the entire family is really important. So I hope you enjoy hearing her story. I think there's so much value in hearing what other people go through and learning from them. Maybe parts of her story applies to you and maybe parts don't. But I think we can all still benefit from listening to each other. So thank you so much for listening, and I hope you really enjoy this story.
Hello, I put together a list of pointers, 10 pointers to address the needs of your non-autistic children. One of the most important tips that I could give you is tip number one is to let your children be children. I feel like I was never allowed to be a child, and because of the circumstances that I lived under, I felt like uh, I was more mature than the average child. Childhood was not a magical time. It was not a make-believe. It was not a fun-filled, amazing time for me. I felt more burdened by adult life at this time, and I was always privy to how are we going to pay the doctor's bills? What should we do about Matt? How do we do this? Or certain things that really aren't the concern of a child. Um, and I think that some of this happened because of a lack of support. Um, if my parents were receiving the support that they needed, they wouldn't feel perhaps that they would have the need to have other opinions of their children. I was always the second mother. Um, that expectation should never be on a child. I don't think that it was fair. I'm not. I'm not trying to blame anyone. I understand how difficult it is without support of maybe family or friends. Again, my parents needed probably a lot more support than was available to them at the time. Um, Family and friends did help out as they could, but it wasn't enough, and no one knew what to do. So I felt like I was always privy to how are we going to pay for this doctor bill? It's not covered by insurance. What are we going to do about this problem or this concern? Or again, I just really feel strongly that children should be kept out of any of the decision making process for sure, and should just be allowed to be children. I felt like I never had that carefree time, and it's a special time in a child's life that they're not going to ever get back. And then the second pointer is I think it's really important as a sibling to try to celebrate all of your children equally. This was always really difficult for me. I felt a lot of times that what I was doing wasn't important. and it was kind of frustrating. For example, um, people treated my brother differently because he was autistic, and it was, it's always been this way. For example, let's say, and I'm not sure how old he was, but I know he was a little bit older before he learned how to tie his shoes, and it was like, wow, Matt, you did a wonderful job. I'm so proud of you. And a lot of adults would do this, sing-songy voice of wow. And I was like, yeah, no, it's a big deal. I learned how to do that when I was like 4 or 5. And look at that, he's getting all the hand claps and all the applause, and what's the big deal? I did that a long time ago. Or some of the things, I mean, it's very important. Oh, Matt learned how to write his name and he's 12, and these are very good things and they should be applauded. But I always felt like maybe what I was doing, which was normal, wasn't important. And of course, when you're dealing with someone that maybe you thought he would never tie his shoes or be able to read or write, I can see how that should be celebrated. But I just think that, when you're with family or you're with friends, it shouldn't be just Matt learned how to tie his shoes. It should also be, Alyssa got on the honor roll this semester, or just little things. I just feel like some of that's missing. And like I have to do more, and I have to be more, and I have to do things more than everyone else. I have to be better to be normal, or to be just treated like I'm equal. And I just think that just make sure that you celebrate all of your children equally. I know it's a bigger accomplishment when your autistic child ties his shoes and he's having like problems with his motor skills. Yes, absolutely, that's a big deal. But to a child, it's not the same. It's not. To me as a child, I was like, yeah, well, what about me? I did that too, and you should be excited for me. And the third pointer I have is try not to sacrifice for your autistic child at the expense of your other children. I always felt a lot of anger about this, and it's been very difficult. I'll use a real life example. My brother Matt is very sensitive, hypersensitive to a lot of things that most people aren't aware of. There was this one time where it was really hot out. It was just really hot, and we had fans on. We didn't have air conditioning where we were, and we had all the fans on, and it was so hot. And my brother Matt said, I don't want the fans on. The loud noise is bothering me, and I won't be able to sleep. So we had to turn all the fans off. My other brothers and I were roasting. We were so hot we couldn't sleep. So to keep the fans off for one child to sleep, but it was so hot that the other 3 children couldn't sleep, just to save Matt some noise. It just seems, it just made me really upset. And there are other instances where this happened. My brother Matt had a lot of allergies, and one year at Christmas time, he was allergic to Christmas trees. And although it was a part of our tradition and our Christmas time ritual, which was very important to us to have something to look forward to, something special. Going over to Grandma's house and having ham and opening gifts. It meant all these little things meant everything to us, because I mean that's what we were looking forward to. So one year my brother Matt was allergic to trees, and after that we weren't allowed to have Christmas trees in our house. And my grandma that year could not put a tree up because Matt, he couldn't be around a tree. So she put little bows up on her wall in the shape of a Christmas tree, and she tried to make it special. But I felt like it just felt so empty and awful, and just it wasn't worth it to me. For the couple hours that we look forward to spending at Grandma's house were sad and depressing, and just we couldn't. There wasn't the lights. There wasn't the normal things that we had to look forward to, because Matt couldn't be around a tree for a couple hours. It just didn't seem fair to us, and it caused a lot of anger and irritation. Just to feel like, why is he more important than we are? Why does what he want or his needs, why does that trump our needs? And it was really hard, because you don't want to feel angry at Christmas time. You don't want things to be happy and joyful, and when that's all you have to look forward to, it was really hard. And I think before you sacrifice for one child, you need to look at what's the effect this is going to have on the other children. The fourth pointer I have is to be concerned about your children's safety. My brother Matt was very violent, as I shared previously, and it wasn't unusual for him to attack me on a daily basis, for a very long period of time. This was really hard because I felt like I wasn't safe. I felt like I was always going through that fight or flight. I wasn't allowed to feel upset when he hit me. I wanted to hit him back, and that wasn't right, because I was normal and I could control that, but Matt was not. And also afterwards, after Matt hurt me, he needed comforting, and I was kind of pushed away. It was like, well, you're normal, so you can deal with it. And he needed more soothing or more comforting to settle him down. And I found that really hard, because after a while that seemed normal, and I don't think under any circumstances it's normal to allow your child to be violent towards another child in your household while you're there, while you're in the room or in the next room. That should never be allowed. If it does happen, I think the appropriate response would be, I'm sorry that's happened to you. That's not acceptable. I think that, and I know that sometimes you're going to have to deal with siblings that are violent, and it's a really touchy issue. I think that the best thing to do maybe is to have a place where that child can go, maybe to feel like they're safe, Maybe it's a room in the house, a special place that they could go um, to maybe hang out with family, but not to always feel like they have to be on guard or feel like they could get hurt in their own house. Have a place, a refuge, a place of safety. And the fifth one is somewhat related to that, is allowing them to have a place for their special items. This was really hard for me. I had a hard time coping with the violence. One of the things that really helped me through it was music. I had a stereo. I had music playing a lot, and what was really difficult for me is sometimes my brother would come into my room when I wasn't home, and he would destroy my stereos. He would smash them, take them apart, take my tapes and my belongings and destroy them. Which, although my parents were very gracious in buying me another stereo, it was always, I felt violated and angry that he could just walk into my room and take my stuff and destroy it. And another thing that happened when we were older that was really difficult for me is sometimes my brother would come in my room and take my clothing and wear it. it I can't even explain to you how that feels, just to have somebody go in your room, take your things, or destroy your things that are yours and are important to you. If you find that that happens, I think probably one of the best things you could do is maybe buy a lock for your child's room door so that your autistic child cannot go in that room and take things that don't belong to them or destroy things that are not theirs. That's really upsetting. And I'm going to say this too because my brothers had a shared room. I had my own room. You know, when you're in a situation where you have to share a room with a sibling that takes your things or destroys your things, I think that's more difficult. Maybe just having a little area or a little place where I could put my most valuable possessions when I'm gone, so I know that they'll be safe, and also a place where I would be safe from my brother either attacking me or taking my things. That was really upsetting to me, and that is why I'm sharing it with you, that, you know, there are certain things that happen that aren't acceptable, although maybe it seems minor compared to a lot of other things going on. I always didn't feel like I had the privacy with my possessions, and also me. I didn't feel like there was a place that I had to myself where I would be safe. In this video, I will be addressing pointers 6 through 10 on how to talk to your children that are not autistic and to be able to help them out with what they're going through. Pointer number 6, which I think is very important, is to not expect your child to be a caregiver. I know this is a really difficult one, and it's really difficult because, first of all, as a firstborn and my parents not getting the help that they needed, a lot of things fell on my plate that I I don't feel like I had the opportunity to say no to, like, no, I don't want to do this, or I'd rather find another job, or just try to live a normal life. Um, I did help a lot with the care. Um, I did get paid for this care. In some ways, it was easy because um, I didn't have to do what the other teenagers had to do, which is go out and look for a job. I had a job there, and it was there. It was in my house, but there wasn't this separation. Like, I was able to do things like normal teenagers were just doing, on Saturday nights. Many Saturday nights, I spent the evening helping my brother take a shower, um, instead of going out with friends, or just doing normal things. I felt like I had to help my parents out and be the good kid. And, that is also a part of me feeling like I didn't get to be a child. I mean, what teenager stays home on a Saturday night to help shower their brother? I mean, that's just, who's a less than 2 years younger. Um, that's just, it's crazy. Um, so I felt very strongly like my parents needed me. I felt like I couldn't leave home. I felt like, for college, I went to a college that was really close to home. I didn't even think or look at other schools that were further away because I didn't think that was an option for me. I felt like I was needed and I had to be there. Which, I was needed. I was needed, and in some ways, it did feel good to be that needed. But in other ways, I feel like I didn't have the opportunity to live my life, to learn, and just do the normal things that kids do when they grow up and start leaving home. Another thing, too, is not only was I a caregiver, my best friend became a caregiver. And once we graduated from high school, my friend also worked with my brother in the special ed classroom and was also a caregiver after school. But one of the most difficult things that happened to me because of this was my brother Matt attacked my best friend, and the police were called, and they came to the school and they hauled him off in the back of a police car. It was a very difficult experience because I lost my best friend, and I never felt any sympathy towards me for that. It was a huge struggle, just having a childhood friend. First of all, it was really hard to invite friends over. My brother was violent. When he was a teenager, he exposed himself to people. He exposed himself to that friend. This is not a friendship that I had to be able to trust that I could bring people home, because it wasn't easy to come to our house. I couldn't hang out with the popular kids because I couldn't bring them home. I couldn't bring them home to that. There were only certain kids that I felt like I could have them over. And number 7 was, I'm going to say, is going to allow your children to express negative emotions. I think this is very important. I often felt jealous, angry. I know I talked to my mom a lot, and it was very hurtful to her. I wasn't blaming her, but yet I know she felt blamed because she had to give so much of her time to my brother. He required that. He needed care. He needed his teeth brushed. He needed things that the rest of us didn't need. He had doctor's appointments. And it was just really, really hard for me, just the transition. I just never felt like I could express myself because I didn't want to hurt anybody. I mean, there were times I wrote in my diary, I hate my mom. I hate her. I hate her because she loves Matt more than me. And there were times when I'd have a concert or something special going on, and my family would, somebody'd have to stay home to be with Matt. And, it was a constant thing because I couldn't have my brother at special events because he could ruin them. He could ruin it. And, like my wedding day, I mean, how would I feel if my brother attacked somebody? There were certain times that I felt angry. I felt like you love him more than you love me because you're spending time with him and you're not going to my things. And I felt like he got more attention and I didn't. And I wanted to spend time with my family, and it was just, there was this grief because we couldn't go on family vacations. We couldn't go out to eat as a family. There wasn't any trips to Disneyland. There wasn't the joy of spending time together and having fun together. It was just always stressful. It was always I felt very, very depressed. It was difficult, and when you're a young child, when you're 8 and you're physically being attacked, 10 years seems like a long time. I never thought it would end. I felt depressed. I didn't want to live anymore. I went through a really deep depression and grief because I didn't want that. I didn't want that to never end, and it felt like it was never going to end, and I felt trapped, and I was even told that someday I get to be the guardian of Matt, and I didn't want that weight. I didn't want to carry that for my whole life, and it felt like forever. It felt like it wasn't going to end. And I needed to be able to express my sadness, my grief, my anger, my jealousy, my negative feelings with someone because of the things that happened. And just feeling like, I'm being attacked and I'm being physically hurt, and I just have to let it happen. And it was a horrible feeling, and I just needed to be able to express that. And I don't think it was directed towards my mother. I think she was a phenomenal mother, but she was pulled in so many directions, and yeah, I could take care of myself. I could take care of other people, and I didn't need her as much as everybody else did. And it was hard to feel like I was ignored. Um, and then pointer number 8 is, I think it's really, really important for parents to accept boundaries. And maybe this is going to be more for parents who have teenagers or older children that are adults. As an adult, I don't spend as much time with my brother as I did when I was younger. That doesn't mean that I don't love him. I probably see my autistic brother as much as I see my other brothers. And there's some difficult things that happened. One of the most difficult things that happened in my adult life is that my brother, Matt, attacked my daughter when she was 4. He grabbed her and started twisting her arm. It took a couple of people to get him off of her. We had limited contact at that time, but it was her birthday. She turned 4, and my brother at that time was a full-grown adult, and he attacked my child. And after that happened, I had already limited contact because he was saying things like, what happened if she takes a bath and I drown her? Or what happens if I hurt her? And it scared me. And I try to limit contact to birthday parties or Christmas or special occasions, limited contact where there's a lot of other family members around. But it did happen. He attacked my daughter, and I didn't want that kind of life for her that I had. I think that at that time I had to set boundaries. I had to say, I don't want Matt around my daughter for a while. I need some time. I need some time where I just have time without him and without the fear of him hurting my children. And it was extremely hard. It was really hard to, as a sibling, to see my child attacked by my brother. He's, like I said, he attacked friends. He's attacked other family members. But there was something really, I was supposed to protect that child. And I think that a part of the negative emotions that I talked about earlier was I felt a lot of guilt that I couldn't stop it. I couldn't change it. I couldn't do anything about it. I was always looking for signs that you know, that he was going to hurt someone, and I couldn't do anything about it. I didn't have any control over it. And that was really hard because I needed to feel like there was some sense of control in my environment. I needed that, and I didn't have that, and that was really a difficult thing. Um, and number 9 is, I think it's really important to have alone time with your parent without your sibling. With One of the things that was very important to my mom was like if we had a hobby or we had something special that we liked to do, she thought it was really important to include my brother. She wanted him to almost be normal, like us. So I was really into roller skating. That was something fun I did as a teenager, and my mom wanted that for Matt too. And there was one time that my mom and I took him roller skating with us, and he attacked someone, and it was really difficult because every time I felt like I had something of my own that I was excited about, he would take that away from me, and it was very frustrating. I wanted to have my own hobbies. I wanted to have my own life, and I didn't want to necessarily have my brother doing all the things that I did. Um, and the same thing goes, I think, with like sleepovers. Sometimes my younger brothers were invited to sleepovers, and people felt like they had to invite Matt. And, since I had, 3 younger brothers, a lot of times it just seemed rude to people to invite one of the brothers and not all the brothers. And, that too is like, do you take that time away from the other kids? Are they allowed to have time with their friends without, their other brothers being included in that? And I just always felt like there really wasn't a lot of time just without my brother, and maybe alone. It would have been nice to have some time alone with my mom, like just to do something fun and not have to worry all the time about other things. I think it's funny. It wasn't until recently that my mom and I went and got a pedicure together. I mean, she never had one before, and she was 70. I mean, don't wait. Do what you can. I mean, if you have to get somebody to babysit, just do fun things. Enjoy the life that you have. Don't make it about stress and bills to pay, and it's just not having anything to look forward to is just, it just crushes the spirit. And I want to end on this last pointer, because I think it's important, and it kind of leads into what I was saying. The last pointer is to take care of yourself as a parent. Really, what good are you as a parent if you're so stressed out and you're spread so thin that it just you have to find time for yourself. I don't care if you feel selfish for doing that. My mom worked full time. She had one autistic child that took up huge gobs of her time. and 3 other children to raise besides Matt. Um, she didn't go out with her friends. She didn't I don't think she took care of herself because she was always working, or she was always responsible, and she was always taking care of things, but she never really took care of herself. And I think that I would have felt happy if I knew that she was okay, that she was happy, that she had time to do fun things with her friends, or just was able to feel like she enjoyed her life, and that it wasn't all just work or dealing with problems. I think that, it's easy to do. I mean, the reality of life is that you only have so much time in a day to get things done. And yes, sometimes things have to uh, be put on hold. But I think that having time to yourself and taking care of yourself um, will help you to get everything else done that you need to get done. And I just thought I would share these pointers with you. Um, I did start a Facebook page called Siblings of Autism, and under my name of Alyssa Joy Snow, I've decided not to use my real name because this is all very, very difficult for me to talk about. And it's really important that people don't feel blamed for some of the things that happen, because there just wasn't the resources and support that we needed to be able to get through this experience. And I'm at this point, I'm in the process of writing a book about my experiences, and I just wanted to give you the opportunity to check out my Facebook page. Hopefully could answer more questions if you have any other questions, or need any support from somebody who's been there and lived through it and has any suggestions. Please feel free to reach out to me. I would love to help you out more. I'm not a lawyer or a counselor or involved in the special needs field at all, but I've been there, and I think that I have a lot of things to be able to share to help you through this. And just thank you for the opportunity, for allowing me to speak to you today, and hopefully I could share more with you in the future. Thank you.